Hi, and welcome to Joy in Our Town. On location at the TBN studios in Virginia Beach, I'm your host, Kim Rankins. Our issue today is homelessness. Our topic is homeless survival backpacks. Joining me today are Jim Rudisill and Mary Rudisill. Jim is the Assistant Director of Fig Tree Haven, and Mary is the Director of Fig Tree Haven, a nonprofit organization. Jim and Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I want to talk today about homelessness. Tell me a little bit about how did you get involved with working with the homeless?
Well, I'm a veteran, and so I get my services from the VA. And when we were going over to the VA hospital in Hampton, we noticed men that looked like they could be veterans with signs saying, "Veteran, need help, we'll work for money." And so I was curious if they were for real. So Mary and I would sometimes stop and chat with the homeless. And sure enough, these guys were legit. And I'm an ex-military officer, and I know how to find out if somebody is legit when they claim to be in the military. And me and my buddies sometimes will talk to them. If they say they're airborne, well, have you been to Fort Benning? What unit are you in? Where did you serve? And if their answers are wrong, sometimes in a bar, somebody's liable to grab the guy, take him out in the street, and beat him up for false information. But I know how to tell a veteran. And so I'd see these vets, and they would have bottles with VA prescriptions, and they were for real. And when I would check them out, there's a camaraderie there. So I invited some of them home for dinner. And so Mary met some of our vets when I brought them home, and we became friends. So as we became friends, they'll open up a little bit and tell you their secrets, where they live, where they stay at night, etc. And so we started visiting the homeless camps and the places around Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton, Newport News, and Chesapeake, where there are huge amounts of people that live under bridges, in the camps, in graveyards. And then we realized it wasn't just vets. There's a lot of people, including women and children, living homeless in the Tidewater area. And we just started helping out a little bit, and Mary started making food for the homeless. And at first, her and a couple of her friends, can you tell us about when you first went downtown and with Sue and a couple of the other ladies, and what we found out when we just opened the door of our van with a big kettle of soup?
Well, they were just delighted that we would do anything for them. And they started calling more people over that they knew where they were. I didn't even see anybody, and they knew where people were. They were just coming out of, places. And as we gave them soup, they were just so thankful. And it was so nice just to be able to help somebody. It didn't seem like a very big thing to be doing, just to give them a bowl of soup. But they were very appreciative.
Now, Mary, certainly Jim is a pastor, and you know he has a heart for God's people. But how did you feel initially when he brought those homeless vets to your house for dinner? Was that a surprise to you, or is that something?
Well, what he does isn't too much of a surprise. But, you'd be apprehensive, at first, but then you get to know them, and it's just like any neighborhood you move into. These people are just regular folks like us, and they all have stories. And your heart just goes out to them, and and then God, you think of things to help them.
Now, certainly, sometimes we have this stereotype of what a homeless person is. You've been with the homeless, you've worked with them. What are they like?
Well, it's such a diverse group. We lived in a closet of one church for a while. It was supposed to be a clothing closet, but pretty soon it filled up with homeless people because there's women and children that are homeless.
No, wait, you said you lived in the closet of a church.
Right.
You and Mary lived in the closet
of a church.
Right. By choice.
Yes.
By choice, okay.
So, but we had unwelcome visitors. We had bed bugs.
Oh my.
One morning I woke up and there's blood. We had a little pallet like on the floor. There's blood all over it, and couldn't figure out what it was. Well, bed bugs had bitten Mary and I throughout the night, and when you roll over, you squish them, and you end up looks like so it was a bit rough, and especially for Mary, because bed bugs don't bother me. They bite me, but I don't even notice they're there except for all the blood. But Mary broke out like a tomato or something. She was all red. She thought she was having hives or one of those diseases, you know, until one of the homeless guys, who was a graduate of William and Mary and an entomologist, quickly identified the problem. We walked out to the main, there was like a little alcove, and then the rest of the closet, we had the clothing racks. Well, here was our friend Dwight, one of the first homeless people we met. 8 years in the Navy with the Navy band. So I said, this guy has got to be a pretty good fellow to get in the Navy, plus to spend 8 years on active duty. That's a lot of regular things you got to do. Plus, as a musician, 8 years of performing, he's got to be great. So we ended up buying him a trumpet, and we started playing trumpet music together, because I play the trumpet a little. And so then there was a lady who was a former professor at Hampton University that was sleeping outside in downtown Hampton, right across. For 3 days, she was standing on the sidewalk. Her legs had swollen up. There's no place in Hampton you go. If she went to 7-Eleven, the police would arrest her. If she went to the bus station, the police would arrest her. If I went to find her at the bus station, they would arrest me.
She was a former professor at Hampton.
No, she was a student at Hampton with a graduate degree. She was lectured at Howard and Brown University. And genius, brilliant lady. And then, so then there was a couple others in there. This one guy just out of prison, Chris was his name. It's like having Robin Williams live with you. He was hilarious. So some wealthy lady heard that Mary and I were living down in this closet, and she came down there to visit us, you know, and someone had given us a little grand piano. So we had the piano going. The entomologist was also a great musician from William and Mary, and when she walked in, we were playing the music and dancing the hora. And she goes, this is so not what I expected out of a group of people that are all homeless, you know. And it's been like that ever since. It's amazing the wide variety, and there is no typical any more than there's a typical TV person or a typical college graduate or a typical teacher. There is no typical for people. They're all unique individuals. And if you had walked in their shoes and heard some of the stories, you would understand more. But we found there was no substitute for going and meeting our homeless neighbors, to finding out what their story was, to destroy the false images that we had built up. And so it was quite a diverse group.
Now, is